The most intense conflicts in our lives don't happen with enemies, but with the loved ones we love more than anything in the world. But why? Why is it that we can react calmly to colleagues, yet snap at our partners, our parents, or our children? Imagine this. Two people love each other, they want the best for one another, yet they still fight, sometimes over the smallest things. Unwashed dishes, an unanswered text, a sharp remark. But suddenly, a normal conversation turns into a conflict. Does this sound familiar? The most surprising thing is that most conflicts don't actually happen because of what people are arguing about. They happen because of what is going on deep inside our psyche. Today, we're going to talk about why conflicts arise even between people who love each other, what happens in the brain during a fight, and how to learn to preserve relationships with partners, parents, and children. My name is Valentina Lipskaya. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I've spent many years working with relationship conflicts. And one thing I often see in my practice is that people don't want to destroy their relationships, but they don't know how to manage their emotions during a conflict. Once, a couple came to see me. They'd been together for many years, and they told me one thing. We love each other, but we're constantly fighting. When we started analyzing their conflict, it turned out that their fights always followed the same pattern. One would say, "You never listen to me." The other would reply, "And you're constantly criticizing me." The conversation quickly turns into an argument, and both of them felt hurt. But the most interesting part came out later. In reality, they weren't arguing about dishes or household trifles, or even about the words themselves. One felt that they weren't being heard, the other felt they were constantly being judged and criticized, and both of them were just being defensive. And then I saw once again what psychological research confirms. Most conflicts aren't a fight against each other, they're a struggle for safety, respect, and recognition. When a person feels a threat, even an emotional one, the brain reacts very quickly. A brain structure called the amygdala is activated. It's responsible for the ancient survival response, fight or flight. Research in the journal American Psychologist shows that during intense emotions, the amygdala can literally hijack control of behavior, and at that moment, logical thinking is significantly diminished. A person becomes more impulsive and defensive reactions are heightened. And that is exactly why during a fight, people often say things they later regret, because in that moment, it is not the rational part of the brain that is speaking. It is our internal defense system. Many wonder why we can talk calmly with colleagues, but often clash with partners, parents, or children. The answer is related to psychological closeness. The closer the relationship, the more our old emotional patterns are activated. In clinical psychology, this is linked to attachment models. Research by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth has shown that relationship styles in adulthood are often linked to early childhood experiences. For example, one person might deeply fear being rejected, another might avoid intimacy, and someone else might depend heavily on approval. And when tension arises in a relationship, these old patterns are activated and the reaction becomes much stronger than the situation itself. Relationships with parents are among the most emotionally charged because old childhood roles often continue to exist within them. For example, a parent keeps giving advice even when the child is 35. They might say, "Build your career differently. Why not do it this way?" But the adult wants to be seen as an adult, and a conflict arises. But this doesn't mean that anyone is bad. It means that old roles continue to influence the relationship. In relationships between partners, the same patterns often repeat themselves. One person demands more attention, the other starts to feel pressured, and a cycle of criticism, defensiveness, and distance emerges. Research in the field of family psychology shows that the most destructive factors in any relationship are constant criticism, contempt, defensive behavior, and emotional withdrawal from one another. Psychologist John Gottman calls them the four horsemen of relationship destruction. He studied couples for decades and discovered that these specific behavioral patterns are what most often lead to a relationship breakup. Conflicts also arise in relationships with children, especially when adults are tired or under stress. Sometimes an adult might react sharply, for example, by raising their voice. But a child learns more than just words. They learn the emotional reaction. When an adult yells at a child, the child learns to react to stress in exactly that way. But when a child sees a calm reaction from an adult, their nervous system gradually learns to do the same. Therefore, the emotional regulation of parents becomes one of the main factors in a child's psychological development. There are also a few simple principles that can help to significantly improve your relationships. First, take a pause during a conflict. When emotions become too intense, it's better to take a break. Even 20 or 30 minutes can help the nervous system calm down. After that, the conversation becomes much more constructive. Second, listen to understand. Very often, people listen only to defend their own position. But if a person feels that they've truly been heard, the tension drops sharply. And third, talk about feelings, not accusations. Instead of saying, "You always ignore me," it's better to say, "I felt hurt and lonely when you didn't reply." This form of communication reduces the level of conflict. There's a very simple practice of asking a loved one just one question every day: "How are you today?" And really listen to the answer without interrupting, judging, or giving immediate advice. Sometimes this is already enough for the relationship to become warmer. People often think that happy relationships are relationships without conflicts. But research has shown the opposite. Happy couples argue too. The difference is in how they return to each other after a conflict. When a person begins to better understand their emotions, their reactions, and their inner fears, it becomes much easier for them to understand other people. And that's exactly why we created Dzeny. Download the Dzeny app, developed by clinical psychologists, and get psychological help 24/7 anywhere in the world. It's a tool that helps a person better understand their emotions, reactions, and internal state. Sometimes it's enough to just stop, reflect a bit on your thoughts and feelings, and the conflict already begins to look completely different. If you resonate with this format of support, the link to the app is in the description.